Good day, everyone. My name is Kevin Proto. I am the founder and creator of Locals Supporting Locals. I am the MC and the host for the One Big Tree Gathering. And I'd just like to say it's been an awesome pleasure since the beginning of the setup here to meeting and finding out who everyone is here. And to me, at the end of the day, this event is about bringing everyone that's in the same book onto the same page. And I feel everyone plays a role in this in order to make a positive change. And this is something that Locals Supporting Locals promotes, is awareness is the first step to positive change. And when I was contacted originally to just to speak at the event, and speaking with Todd, who I actually met at the Indigenous gathering down in Lillooet last year, after we got to talking and he realized the network that's been grown through Locals, he actually asked me to MC, and it's a true pleasure. And I have to admit, this is my first public speaking engagement, so I am a little nervous. So just to let you all know that you are all naked to me right now, so don't be nervous. I'll give you a breakdown on what Locals Supporting Locals is all about. It's pretty self-explanatory. Locals supporting locals in our communities here. So what we're about is about promoting our local, ethical, organic farmers, our local mom and pops, and more importantly, the reasons why we need to support them. A lot of people don't realize when you continue to shop at Walmart, Loblaws, Safeway, you're actually taking away a lot of what is the heart of a community. Right, so all these things such as soccer teams, baseball teams, boys and girls clubs and stuff like that, those are funded from local businesses. I used to do a lot of fundraising. My background actually is 12 years in the service industry and 7 years of sales and marketing. And I learned a lot about what is going on with corporations here. So a lot of that funding removes, and therefore we start to lose a lot of what is the heart of a community here. So it's very important people to understand this and be conscious of it and spend that extra 50 cents or that extra dollar in order to support your local business and your farmer. Throughout this event, you're going to hear a lot of people talking about a lot of awareness, but the purpose of this event is to bring us together again and put us on the same page and start working towards solutions. So we're going to have on one of the tables, a vending table here, is a list. It's to create the true union of We the People of BC, the Local Supporting Local Union. And this way, together, we can do this. You know, so everybody here plays a role here, from the spiritual, the holistic, the artist. A lot of the artists that are here today are participating in rallies such as Ending the Pipeline. And it's in their music, you know, but at the same token too, a lot of people are listening to the music and not realizing truly what they're singing about. And that's, again, what this conference is about. So we got some great people that are going to speak today. Shawn Buckley, constitutional lawyer that actually took on Health Canada for the Consumer Product Safety Bill. He'll be speaking on that, as well as the Omnibus Bill. We got Joshua Blankeny, who has studied at Calgary University. We'll be speaking on some of the for lack of a better word, lies that we hear through mainstream media pertaining to global terrorism, Zionism, 9/11. Steve Merrill. We're going to have solutions to everything going on, and together we can make the positive change. So essentially, when I started Locals Supporting Locals, I like to jokingly tell people, I went down the rabbit hole and I brought a jackhammer. And I went too far and I came out and I'm like, holy cow, this is really what's going on in our world. We've been living in such a facade and such a lie for so long, and it's hard for a lot of us to grasp that. So a lot of us, I hear nothing, I see nothing, I say nothing, and that has to stop now. So after I realized what was going on, I realized that I have to do something because I know now. So what I did is I created Locals Supporting Locals. I have a calendar that's coming out promoting all our local, ethical, organic farmers, who they are, what they grow, and it's all surrounded by local mom and pop advertising, and that's for the South Okanagan. Sadly, I was detained for a year. I was postponed for that, but it's going to be released this year. But it also has information on there pertaining to a lot of the things we're speaking about today, and also money-saving coupons in the back. So it's very versatile. But So what it does is it allows the information to get out there and drive people to the website. So my goal is to connect with a lot of you people here to help promote what you're doing to make that positive change. And through that unity, we can actually pull this off here. And so with locals here, again, I'm a little bit nervous here, so thank you. So with locals as well, it's a network, okay? So what I did, I watched, I see a few YouTube videos, information, emails sent my way, and for example, Shawn Buckley, I went and saw a rally for the first time, never been to one, and he spoke on what was Bill C6 at the time, the Consumer Product Safety Bill, which I'll let him speak on it, but I'll just give you a brief summary of it. It removes common law search and seizure. It's an attack on our natural health industry, and it was very alarming to me. And I'm very proud and happy that he came to speak at this event. Everyone here that is speaking today is doing this from the heart. Everyone, no one is compensated for this. So I learned a lot by watching Shawn there, the way he was to present things, because it is very alarming once you start to learn, and it's hard not to want to belt everything out there, but fear at the end of the day is our worst enemy. My goal is to provoke you, and then we unite. So some of the solutions I'll be talking about throughout the event. Sunday we're going to be talking in agriculture. Heidi Osterman will be coming in to talk about genetically modified foods, and we're also going to talk more about the solutions. At the end of everybody, when they speak here, you're going to have questions and answers for about 15 minutes. So we'll put a microphone out here so that this way you can ask, because I'm sure some of the stuff you're about to hear will be very alarming. But the one thing that we cannot do anymore is, I guess, some people are under the myth, like one world bank, one world religion, one world order, one world government. So there's been a lot of infiltrations into every one of the shifts that are going on, and people need to understand that and not get caught up in indoctrinations here. Some people feel that if you don't think about this, it won't manifest, but you have to be careful on that one. So a lot of people are ill today because of genetically modified foods, and they don't even know what GMO stands for. So they're not manifesting these diseases. So without further ado here, because I've now lost my train of thought, but we have 2 days, and I will be introducing all the speakers here today, and I am very excited, and hopefully you are as excited as I am. But again, once you hear some of these things, don't be alarmed, because trust me, since the beginning of time, okay, it's never been the empires or governments that have ruled over us, or thought they did, that have changed anything. It has always been through the unity of we the people. So we just need to stand and be united. Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to present Shawn Buckley. So Shawn Buckley, just to give you a rundown on him, I'm going to let him explain more about what he's done, but he's a modest man. So he's actually went across Canada 4 times, because this bill C-36 that they think became law, but I didn't enter into that contract, so therefore it does not exist to me. But started off Bill C-51. Shawn went across Canada, got enough signatures. The bill was not passed. Then it went to Bill C-52. Same thing, right across Canada. Bill C-6, he rallied and got 40,000 signatures. And again, squashed. But then the Conservative government overwhelmed the Senate, and therefore the bill was passed. So I'll let Shawn speak more on this, though, but it's truly an honor to have him here, and hopefully you feel the same. And by all means, with all the speakers here, after, we can only take so many questions and answers, but go see them. Most of them are here for today and tomorrow. All right? So Shawn Buckley here.
How many of you guys have even heard of the omnibus budget bill, Bill C-38, that recently got rammed through Parliament. Okay, so some of you are putting up your hands. Does this mean some of you haven't even heard of this omnibus budget bill? Okay. Okay, so never heard of it. Interesting. And how many of you who have heard of it are aware that actually basically gutting our food safety laws? Anyone even hear that it affected? Honestly? Okay, that surprises my wife puts up her hand. So, because it just wasn't in the mainstream media. And a couple things are happening here that are interesting. It's like, I was watching a YouTube video, I think it was last week, with Rand Paul, you know, Ron Paul's son, who's now also a lawmaker in the US. And he was complaining. He was basically holding up a bill that was like a phone book in size and complaining on the record. We'd just gotten this morning, you're expecting us to vote on it today, and he says nobody's going to have the time to read it. And we're all aware when they took away the rights in the US, you know, with the Patriot Act and all of that, basically they were told they were going to have martial law in the streets. And they're giving these bills that are so big, no one can read them. And it kind of asks the question, like, even if you pretended we had democracy, which, you know, we don't, but if you at least said, well, we can at least vote the guys out every 4 or 5 years, don't you think an MP should read a bill before they vote on it? And even one step further, understand what the bill means? It's just, it's fascinating. And I thought, well, that's the US where they do that. We don't do that in Canada, but then we just did it in Canada. Bill C-38 was 400 pages long. Okay, 400 pages long. And it was supposed to, they called it our budget bill. Every year the government has to pass a budget. But they amended a whole bunch of other laws. And one of the laws that they amended was our Food and Drug Act. And they amended it in a really scary way. And it has, I've heard nothing in the media about it. So let me just kind of tell you what the change is. So first of all, we've got an act called the Food and Drug Act, and we've got all these regulations. And literally over about 90 years, when we've learned things were dangerous, we would pass new regulations. And we've got this whole body of food safety law, which actually isn't bad. I mean, I practiced law in the area. You know, our food was reasonably safe. In 2004, though, they kind of put the first chink in the armor, and they passed an amendment to the Food and Drug Act. So even though we've got all this food safety law, the minister could grant an exemption. So the minister could say this food or this class of food doesn't have to adhere to our food safety law. And you'd go, well, like, why would you do that? And there really is no good reason, right? But at least there were some safeguards. So the first safeguard is before any exemption took effect, it had to be published in the Canada Gazette. And the Canada Gazette is really just the federal government's newspaper. So whenever they publish notices, they put it in, it's called the Canada Gazette. But at least you or I can read it and see, okay, this food is exempted from the safety regulations, I might want to avoid this food. Or what the minister was doing is allowing GMO ingredients using these exemptions. Well, at least you'd know, right? Like, surprise, surprise, one thing that caught me off guard is all the GMO ingredients being allowed into wine and alcohol. Like, switch to organic, I'm not kidding, it's quite something. But anyway, it was a safeguard. Another safeguard was these exemptions only lasted for 2 years unless they actually changed the law. So, you know, which would make sense. And the final safeguard was the minister could only grant an exemption to our food safety laws if he or she determined it wouldn't cause harm. Now that's just kind of common sense, right? You've got all these laws to protect us. If you're going to exempt a food or class of foods from them, make sure that it doesn't harm us. Well, the recent changes in this omnibus bill, the first thing to go is the minister no longer has to determine it's safe to exempt your food from our food safety laws. And what justification can there be for taking that out? But that was taken out, and the minister no longer has to publish it. So the problem I have is the average citizen, if you wanted to know, okay, is our food safe? You've got all this body of law there, it's on the books, it's easy to look at, and you're going to assume that the foods you're buying in the store adhere to these laws, but now foods can be exempted and it doesn't have to be published, like there's no way for you to know. So, and I think what's happening is there's going to be a whole bunch of GMO stuff coming down the pipe, and they don't want people to know. That's just my guess. But the other big change, and this is interesting from a democratic perspective, is the minister now, when he or she grants one of these exemptions, or if they pass a regulation, can incorporate any document, and it takes the force of law. Well, this is interesting because, well, it literally, the minister, for example, could say, well, we've got this association of chemical companies, and they've got a list of safe levels of these chemicals, so we're just going to adopt that. So now you can, I'm just giving an example I expect will happen. Another thing they could do is say, well, we're just adopting the European Union's regulations on, let's say, food claims, which I think actually is going to happen. I'll publicly predict that right here. So now from a democratic perspective, this is very interesting, because up until these changes, Parliament had the final say on food safety. I mean, whether you trusted them or not, at least we could put public pressure on them, right? I mean, obviously, Parliament is the only one that can pass laws. But even with regulations, Parliament has scrutiny. So every regulation is permanently before a committee in both the Senate and the House of Commons, and either one of those can pass a resolution having the regulation repealed. So just so you understand, it was, I use democratic in quotation marks, but it was our democratic leaders that had control over our food safety. But when you can switch that to a trade association or a foreign government, who do we lobby? I mean, do we go to the European Union if they adopt their regulations? Do we go to, you know, a chemical company and lobby them? Like, do you see how all of a sudden control over our food safety is being taken away? And it's quite significant. It's quite significant. So it's not just in the area of food safety we're kind of losing our democratic control. It's just happened in the area of consumer products. It's happening in other areas where the bureaucracy is basically taking control. Now the problem with that is if you have a bureaucracy that's not corrupt, it works great. Does anyone here know who Dr. Shiv Chopra is? Okay, a couple of people. Dr. Shiv Chopra is actually one of those very rare individuals, because he is a bureaucrat with integrity. Well, he's not a bureaucrat anymore. They fired him because integrity and public service don't really go well. But he's a, you know, a PhD drug expert, and for a while he worked in Health Canada for 30 years in the drug approval process, and for a while he actually ran the veterinary drug approval branch, and he's the reason we don't have a whole bunch of, there's a whole list of growth hormones we don't have in our food supply because of him. But he became a whistleblower, and he actually forced the Senate to subpoena a whole bunch of Health Canada scientists. And what was interesting is scientist after scientist after scientist said, oh yeah, we'll look at a drug, it's clearly unsafe, we'll recommend that it not be approved, and then the Health Canada management will do a runaround and get the drug approved. And one of them, a doctor, it was Hayden, wasn't it, Jeannie? Who, she actually told the CBC after the Senate hearings, well, after you've been in Health Canada for a while, you actually recognize the pattern, how they're going to get around these drug approvals, which is very fascinating, isn't it? Because